my name is Mhairi Harris. I'm currently a fourth year psychology student, and I am currently holding the position in the SRC of Charities, Clubs and Societies Officer, and previously holding the position 2 years ago, General Representative.
Why is the Raising and Giving Committee that you've helped to establish an important thing for the SRC to be doing?
So in the past, the SRC used to run RAG Week, and it kind of had mixed success depending on what year it was run, what events happened. And I really think the transition from RAG Week to RAG Committee is very vital. RAG Committee is a year-long thing rather than just a week. The reason why I'm so passionate about RAG Committee is because it involves people from outside the SRC, so it's not just an internal thing. The Vice President of Student Activities sits on it, and my current position, Charities, Clubs and Societies Officer, sits on it. But this year we opened it up to a lot of other students, and it's really made a difference. The few people we do have on the committee right now are first years. They're very keen, they're very excited, and we've already almost beat the budget, beat the fundraising total from last year's RAG Committee, RAG Week.
You say that you want the university to give the SRC more money to fund clubs and societies in the form of grant funding. But the SRC's block grant hasn't substantially increased since 2014.
Yeah. So
how are you going to get the university to give the SRC more money to give to clubs and societies?
So the ideal situation would be that the university would give us more money, and then the SRC would then allocate more money to funding for clubs and societies. We're almost hitting 300 clubs and societies, yet our money is not ever increased. So obviously I'm going to campaign for that, raise awareness. It's kind of, every year we obviously appeal for it, but I don't think just because something's not happened doesn't mean you should fight for it. But in terms of trying to restructure grants, I'm going to try and restructure the grant system. It's not sustainable for the amount of money we do get. Edinburgh University, Aberdeen have a very different grant structure, and they've not received any more money in the last couple of years, but their grant structure allows flexibility and more clubs and societies to use it. For example, they section off different parts of different bits of money to different types of societies, so like cultural societies or volunteering societies or language societies.
But surely in order to give more societies, more clubs and societies funding,
yes,
the SRC itself is going to need more money.
Yes.
And as the current exec will tell you, it's not that easy to get the university to give them more money. So are you essentially trying to get blood out of a stone here?
No, that's why I've allocated the grant system, because we need somebody to short-term solve the issue. Obviously it's a much bigger issue, and ultimately we want more money. None of the student bodies have received any more money in the last couple of years, and it is a huge issue. As I said, I'm going to campaign for it, but also the university kind of has a tactic that they like to compare themselves to other universities, and my tactic, and I said I'm not promising big things, but my tactic is if we actually outline a presentation showing what clubs and societies in other universities get in Scotland, then we're lagging behind greatly. I know Edinburgh University, I've contacted them, and they're getting about almost £20,000 for their clubs and societies.
What are you going to do to make Freshers Week a more inclusive experience for all different types of students?
So I've obviously been a Freshers helper for 2 years. I'm obviously a fresher myself, so I've seen how Freshers Week's run and how it can be successful. I do think Freshers Week is generally very inclusive. We have a lot of different events that we put on that are very well attended. One big example is the International Ceilidh that goes on. It's always sold out every year. So I just want to build on that and build on, advertising clubs and societies events. I think unless students go to the Freshers Fair and actually sign up to the societies, they don't actually know what's going on during Freshers Week. There's usually inductions for different things. I really want to promote that. But first and foremost, I'm going to ask clubs and societies what they want. I found out this year, just in the last couple of weeks, by emailing and Facebooking people, that they've never actually had an SRC member contact them before to ask them how everything's going, and just a simple email to be like, what can we do better, how can we promote you better. I think we'll get a lot better inclusion will happen from that.
But on Freshers Week, if the number of Freshers passes sold continues to decrease,
yes,
then who gets held accountable for that?
So The freshers pass has decreased, and it's not through the exec's fault at all this year. I'm not saying that. I think a lot of people might think that my manifesto is saying it was the exec's fault. It's not. I'm not saying that. What I think happened, and what is something that can be rectified, is the university's welcome pack to students. They said to the exec that they'd changed their promotion strategies for Freshers Week, and I think that reflected in the decreased applications for the freshers passes. I think that's something that can be easily rectified, and I do think the numbers will increase if we work with the university on fixing that.
Students have heard the promise before about Wednesday afternoons being kept free for clubs and societies. They've also heard the promise about mandatory lecture recording before.
Yeah.
Are you confident that you're going to be able to make progress on this issue, given that so many former sabbatical officers have a record of failure on this?
Well, I would like to say that the university has changed its standings on Wednesdays for sports. I know that I've contacted GUSA president, and also I've looked up the Senate guidelines on it. They do say that they want that every effort should be made to avoid having classes on Wednesday afternoons, and there has been a change in that, I do think. But students are still having to choose, even though they're not actually being penalised. They have to still choose between attending these lectures and attending the sport. It's not a false promise, because I think both are already on their way to starting or even going, and I think that it's kind of like a middle solution. The university is obviously starting to include lecture recordings, but they've not made it mandatory, and I think a lot of their arguments is, oh, it stops students from attending lectures. But if I bring to the university and say this is the only time that it should be mandatory because you're forcing students to make this difference, then that is different, and I don't think anyone else has actually physically promised that before. As I said, it's going to be something that is a main thing. I truly believe in sports and societies, and I think that there is a lot more to the university than just academics.
How are you going to ensure that home students, which are a large demographic on this campus, continue to be adequately represented, and that their unique needs continue to be met?
So actually just yesterday the council, it was brought, which is one of my manifesto points, it was brought that I wanted representation for home students, and it was brought to have a home student representative on council, which is great. I'm so happy about that, and I do think it will be passed before my term ends. That is just the start. And I think that having that position on council is showing to the university that we do care about this demographic, and there's a lot of issues that need to be solved. Nothing like that has ever been done before, and I want to actually listen to the students. As I said, I said in my GUST interview, I'm not a home student. I'm not going to pretend I have the same potential issues that they do, but I want to get their involvement, get their opinions, and actually work with the university and them to solve this.
What do you think, specifically, what do you think the university needs to do to support home students more effectively?
I've had a couple of discussion groups with 4 or 5 students at a time who are home students, and I asked them to write anonymously what they want from the university if they could have anything. And the main things that does come up is lockers, microwave, or somewhere that they can keep their stuff for the day. I was abroad last year in Canada, and at the university I was at, they had a whole complex just for home students. It was wonderful. Everything was there, and I think, considering we have such a large demographic in our university, I think it's appalling we don't have anything. Microwaves, as I said, is a huge thing, but it's weird. If you go to different schools, some will have microwaves, some won't, and it's like, that's not fair for home students.
People have said to me, not least former SRC presidential candidates, that the SRC has become too much of a clique.
Yeah.
So how are you going to bring new people into the SRC?
So one big mistake that I found this time is, obviously through elections this semester, there's the lowest amount of candidates in a long time. It's awful, and I do think one of the reasons that that's happened is due to promotion. I understand that promoting for elections can be expensive, and I do understand why the SRC cut that back, but I think it's evident through this turnout that we need promotion. Now, I'm not saying that promotion needs to be the most expensive thing in the world, I just think it needs to be done right. As I said, I've looked at other universities. One big example is Exeter. Exeter has one of the highest student turnouts in elections, 40%. And I don't know if you know about the viral video that went out, but that was a great piece of promotion. A guy who's running the elections did a wonderful rendition of Macklemore and Ryan Lewis. And it really got students engaged. Another thing that I would like to do with elections, and kind of akin to that, is actually have an interactive elections. Now, going back to Exeter Uni, they have basically a software that shows you who's voted in terms of schools, colleges and year groups. They found through doing this that actually first years are the most engaged in elections, which I didn't know. And if we start something like that here, we can see who's actually engaged with elections. And it's good for interaction, but B, also to build figures and to work on who to actually target in elections for future.